I am so happy to be here. Years ago, I used to speak here at Judson all the time. And when the school called me, asked me if I'd be willing to come back, I said I would be so happy to do that. Now, turn to the person on your right. You who are sitting next to the wall, do the best you can. Turn to the person on your right. Say to them, you look good this morning. You look good. You look good this morning. Now turn to the person on your left and say to them, thanks for sitting next to me. Thanks. They could have sat next to anybody and they are sitting next to you. Now, do this gently, gently. Pat the person in front of you on the back. Say to them, this morning your hair is perfect. Your hair is perfect. That is so important. That is so important. Now, turn around to the person behind you. Turn around to the person behind you. Say to them, you look just like my mom. You look just like my mom. Good old mom. Good old mom. Well, I live in Rockford, Illinois, so I'm a neighbor, and I have the best job in the world, and that is I'm a full-time speaker, and I get to travel around the world, speaking to high school, middle school, adults, college, and I am blessed to be able to do what I do. And this morning, I want to talk to you about relationships that thrive. I want to talk about your relationship with your roommate, your relationship with your friends, your relationship with the person you're dating, your relationship with people you pass on campus all the time. And I want to talk about 3 characteristics that ought to be a part of each relationship. This isn't everything, but if we can master these 3 characteristics, then I want to suggest we've got a firm foundation on which to build a relationship. Number 1, and these are not in order of importance, but number 1 is extravagant love. Number 1, extravagant love. John chapter 13, verses 34 and 35. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Isn't that amazing? We are not identified with the person of Jesus Christ because we have good theology, although good theology is important. We're not identified as a follower of Jesus because we go to church, although going to church is important. No, we are identified as a disciple of Jesus Christ by the way in which we love one another. And I want to remind you that love is not primarily a gushy, gooey, tingly, goosebumply feeling. Love is a commitment. Love is something you choose to do whether you feel like it or not. And if you're going to wait for a feeling before you love certain people, there are certain people you will never love because you will never feel like it. Those who are the least lovable often require the most love. Choose to love. Years ago, Valentine's Day, I brought my wife into the dining room. I sat her down. I brought my 4 children into the dining room. I sat them down. I said to my 4 children, look at me. I said, I will never leave your mother. I just want you to hear me say that. I will never leave your mother. Your mother makes bad choices, I'm going to be there. Your mother gets sick, I'm going to be there. Your mother gets hurt, I'm going to be there. I will never leave her. Now, I have men who come up to me who say this, you can't say that. You can't make a statement like that. That's ridiculous. You don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now, 6 years from now. You can't say that. And I say to them, you are absolutely wrong. because my love for Bonnie has little to do with the way I feel. Does Bonnie ever do things that upset me? Yes, yes. Oh, she can hit those hot buttons. But look, in the same way, do I ever do things that upset Bonnie? No. Yes, I do. But my love for Bonnie has little to do with the way I feel. My love for Bonnie is based upon my commitment to Jesus Christ, my character as a man, and my word as my bond. And because of that, I will never leave her. You need to choose to love one another. You need to understand that love is that commitment. And feelings are a terrible indicator of reality. Terrible indicator of reality. Feelings can lead you in the opposite direction you ought to go. Understand there are people you are going to fall in love with that you should never date, let alone marry. Just because you're attracted to somebody does not mean it's going to be a good relationship. Just because you fall in love with somebody does not say this is a healthy relationship. That's why Jesus says to us, if you know the truth will set you free. Not feeling. He's not saying if you feel the truth, no. He said you got to know what's true and you've got to know what's right and you need to go in that direction. I have said to my 4 children this, you will never reach the age where your father will no longer hug you or kiss you or tell you that he loves you. You will never reach that age. You need to continue to communicate your love and your care for one another. So I'm invited to speak at Lake Highland Prep School in Orlando, Florida. This is an incredibly affluent school. These students are driving cars I will never, ever drive. They got to wear uniforms, but they are decked out in gold. So they bring me in the fall on a Friday to do an assembly. Now, varsity team is in their uniforms. I get up in front of them. I do this assembly. I get to the end of the assembly, and I say this. When I'm done now, I'm going to step off the platform. And if you would like a dad hug, I want you to come down, and I will give you a dad hug. And I will say to you what a father ought to be saying to you. Now, come on. These affluent, prep, intellectually excellent students, I know you're thinking, come on, nobody's going to go up to you. I mean, most teenagers think I look like a combination of Droopy Dog, Fred Flintstone, and the Cowardly Lion on The Wizard of Oz. So it's like, no, students, no. So I step off the platform, the administrator, headmaster comes off, they dismiss that assembly, and those students lined up for dad hugs. Football team lined up for dad hugs. There was this big offensive lineman guy who said to me, my father has never told me that he loved me. And I said, well, I want you to know I love you. And I think you're great. And do you know what these students did? When I gave them those hugs, when I spoke into them, you know what they did? Most of them sobbed. They just wept. Why? Because we are so desperate for that kind of goodness. To know that we are loved, to know that we are significant, to know that we are cared for. Man, we bring the light and we bring the truth and we bring the love of Jesus Christ. Do not be stingy with that. Do not be stingy. I want to call you to love with an extravagant love. Second thing I would like you to do, number 2, is generous forgiveness. Colossians chapter 3 and verse 13. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. This is not a suggestion. This is not, look, if it's convenient, if it's easy, if you want to, go ahead and forgive this person. No, this is a command. This is a command. You need to forgive one another. I want you to know that forgiveness begins with humility, because nobody in this chapel needs forgiveness more than I need forgiveness. Nobody here needs forgiveness more than you need forgiveness. So starting now, I want to suggest that we treat one another the way Jesus Christ treats us. When's the last time you came to Jesus and you said, Jesus, I am so sorry. That was so wrong. Please forgive me. And Jesus said, kiss off. Never. Never. Do you mean to tell me that we treat other people less than Jesus treats us? No. No. Look, there are some things that people do, it's easy to forgive. So a few Christmases ago, everybody's home now. All 4 of my kids are married. We have 5 grandchildren, 3 grandchildren on the way, all being born in the month of May, all little girls. So pretty exciting, pretty nice. So everybody's home for Christmas, and I'm sitting in the den, and my oldest son, Justin, he has 2 children. He's getting them ready for bed. And my grandson, Athen, is 4 years old. And I hear Justin say, go say goodnight to Grandpa. So I hear these pitter-patter of feet. And he runs into the den and he says, good night, Grandpa. And I said, oh, good night, Athen. And I give him a hug and I give him a kiss. And I say, Athen, I love you. And he goes, Grandpa, I love you too. Sorry I peed in your shoe. And then he turns around and runs away. I'm like, what? Now that's easy to forgive. That's easy to let go of. But you know what? There's some stuff that's gone on that isn't easy to forgive. Do not raise your hand. Do not raise your hand. How many of you have been lied to? How many of you have been cheated on? How many of you have been stabbed in the back? How many of you have been betrayed? How many of you feel used? How many of you have been abused? Yeah, that's some serious stuff. And forgiving that stuff, that doesn't come easy. That isn't quick. But in spite of the pain and in spite of some of the awful things that other people have done to you, I'm going to ask you to forgive and to let go. Not because those who mistreated you deserve it, but because you deserve to be free from them continuing to emotionally manipulate you when you hang on to this stuff. Let forgiveness take away resentment, hatred, anger that you have kept in your heart. You know the old saying is to choose not to forgive is like you trying to hurt somebody by drinking poison. All it does is kill you. It's making you a cold, hard, bitter person. See, forgiveness is about setting the prisoner free, only to discover that all along you've been the prisoner. You've been chained. I want you to be free to become everything Jesus Christ has created you to be. And when you forgive, I want to remind you that you are taking this person off your hook, but you do not take them off God's hook. And God can do a much better job disciplining them than you ever could. So I want to know this morning, who do you need to choose to forgive? Who do you need to just say, okay, God, I may not even feel like it, but in obedience to you, I'm going to choose to forgive this person. And then secondly, let me ask you, who do you need to apologize to? I'm going to ask God the Holy Spirit right now to lay on your heart and lay on your mind anybody you need to apologize to. See, you have hurt people in the past and you have not made right that. You have hurt them and you tried to ignore that and just move on. And you say to me, well, Greg, that happened like 3 weeks ago, or that happened like 3 months ago, or that happened a couple of years ago. They don't even remember it. And I'm here to tell you they haven't forgotten a thing. You need to apologize to them. You need to humble yourself, and you need to make that right. If you are going to continue to grow emotionally and spiritually, you've got to learn to forgive, and you need to learn to seek forgiveness. You need to be willing to apologize. And once you do that, and once you make right that, and once you take those steps, those are awesome, and I'm proud of you. But remember, that does not necessarily mean that you remain in that relationship. I'm concerned today in dating relationships with the amount of abuse that is going on. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, and sexual abuse. And I hear this all the time. People sit down and talk with me about this all the time. Here's what I'd like to do for you. I'd like to define for you physical abuse, emotional abuse, and sexual abuse. And I'm going to define it in large brush strokes. Meaning, we could add more detail to this, but I'm going to give you at least some parameters to work within. And then I'm going to ask that if you have abused in the past, that you stop it. No more. No more. And secondly, if you are in an abusive relationship, you need to get out of that relationship. I don't care how much you feel like you love them or care about them or all of that stuff. If you are being abused, you need to leave that relationship because this other person has lost respect for you. You are starting to become something rather than somebody. And that is unhealthy for you, and that is unhealthy for them because you begin to enable that kind of behavior. First of all, physical abuse. Physical abuse is touching the other person in anger. Now, I'm not talking about slugging them. Yes, that would be abuse. I'm not talking about slapping them. Yes, that would be abuse. I'm not talking about pushing them into a wall. Yes, that would be abuse. I'm not talking about throwing them down. Yes, that would be abuse. I'm just talking about touching them. For you to reach out and grab them by the arm and say, I told you not to do that. For you to touch somebody in anger, that is physical abuse. Look, I want to let you know I have fallen short as a husband over and over and over and over again. But one thing I can say to you is that I have never touched my wife in anger. And I will never, ever touch her in anger. Physical abuse is also picking things up, chucking them across the room, hoping you'll hit the person and hurt them. And physical/emotional abuse is driving the car in erratic fashion, putting yourself, the other people in the car, in a life-threatening type of situation. That is physical abuse. Emotional abuse is being rude, crude, cruel, and insulting. Shut up! You idiot! You moron! You are worthless! Get out of my sight! Or a whole lot worse. Or a whole lot worse. Emotional abuse is also controlling and manipulating. Where'd you go? What'd you do? Who'd you talk to? How much time did that take? Why did you go here? Why did you go there? I don't like that outfit. Go in and change that outfit. Wear something else. I expect you to have your cell phone on at all times. When I call you, I expect you to pick that cell phone up before the third ring, and on it goes. Come on. They're treating you like they own you. And they don't own you. You belong to Jesus Christ. Emotional abuse is also abandoning, neglecting, giving the silent treatment to. And then sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is forcing you to do something you don't want to do, but they want you to do it because it turns them on. I just want to call you now to a higher standard. If you've been abusive in the past, I want to call you starting now. You will no longer go there. You will no longer do that. And if you have been abused, would you find some individuals you can trust and respect? Please sit down with them, talk with them, get some encouragement, get some help. And then you need to get out of that relationship because it is not healthy and it is not of God. And I want to encourage you with this, and I understand this is a hard thing to say, and I understand some of you will disagree with me, and I'll stick around after chapel if you want to chat. But I want to say to you, do not marry an angry man. Do not marry an angry woman. Kind of a good rule of thumb is this: get healthy, then get married. Get healthy, then get married. Marrying somebody who has anger issues is going to be a really, really hard road. It is going to be traumatic. Better they make the changes, the good choices, get the help now rather than waiting till after they are married. And thirdly, third thing I want you to pursue is enthusiastic encouragement. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 11. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. I hope you are doing. With your words you speak life, or with your words you speak death. With your words you build up, or with your words you tear down. Stupidest thing my mother ever said to me. One day when I was little, she said, Greg, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt you. Really? I'd much rather be hit by a stick. I'd much rather be nailed by a stone. That pain is temporary. Words can hurt for a lifetime. Now turn to the person next to you, either the person on your left, the person on your right, and I want you to just think about yesterday, just yesterday. How many times did you build up somebody, encourage somebody, speak life into somebody, express your love for somebody? How many times did you do that yesterday? Count that up and tell the person next to you. Go. right. Good job. Now, I want you to turn back to this person yesterday, just yesterday, add this up. How many times yesterday were you sarcastic? Go. Okay, look back up here. Yeah, I heard that when I said that. Everybody's like, oh. Yeah, I speak 2 languages fluently. I speak English and I speak sarcasm. And do you know what my wife taught me? My wife taught me, this may not be true of you, this is true of me. My wife taught me that sarcasm was a wall I hid behind so I didn't have to be vulnerable. See, it was easy for me to turn to somebody and say, hey, you're stupid. Come on, man, what's the matter? Can't you take a joke? It's easy to do that. But to go to somebody and say, I care about you, I love you, I thank God for you, I think you're awesome. You know what you're doing? You are risking. And you are holding your heart out to this person saying, I care. And what do we risk them doing? We risk them going, I don't care. So much safer, not better, but much safer to put up the walls and put on the mask and lash out in sarcasm. I'd like to encourage you to take off that mask, to let down that wall, and to be about encouraging and building up others. I want you to speak life into one another. When I said to these students at Lake Highland, when I said to them, here's what a father ought to be saying to you as a man, and here's what a father ought to be saying to you as a woman, I am speaking life into them. It's like giving a cup of cold water to a thirsty person. That's what I want you to do. Now, I know this is going to be hard, but I believe in you. I think you can do this without any sarcasm at all, without any kidding around, without any joking at all. I want you to tell the person on your right one thing you appreciate about them. Ready? Go. Now, return the favor. Tell the person on your left one thing you appreciate about them. Go. All right, now look back up here. Now, why don't you continue to do that? You don't need a chapel in which to do that. Here's your assignment for the rest of today, only today, because I don't want to stretch you too far. But for the rest of today, and this will be one of the hardest things some of you have ever done. For the rest of today, you are not to say one negative thing about anybody to anybody. No more gossip, no more tearing down, and for the rest of today, as you go from class to class and after classes, I would like you to be about speaking life into one another. encouraging one another, building each other up. I want you to know that I am on social media, and if I can encourage you or be a friend to you, I'd be happy to do that. I read every message personally, and I respond to every message personally. So just be patient, because I get a lot of messages. I promise you I will get back to you. On Instagram or Twitter, I am Greg O. Speck. G-R-E-G, the letter O, S-P-E-C-K. Just Greg O. Speck. If you would like to email me, it's gregoSpeck@gmail. gregoSpeck@gmail. And yes, I am still on antiquated Facebook. So if you are still on Facebook, just Greg Speck, and that's how you can get a hold of me. When I dismiss you now, I want you to know I'm just going to come off the platform, and I would love to meet you. Would love to say hi to you. If you have some questions, if you want to chat with me at all, I would be happy to do that. Also, if you are a youth ministry major, the first 2 youth ministry majors who come up to me, I have a little gift I have brought to give to you. All right? Let's all stand, and I will dismiss us in prayer. Okay, let's pray together. Jesus, I am thankful for these men and women. I'm thankful for Judson University. And I pray, Lord, that you would just raise up from this student body heroes of the faith, women and men who are all about extravagantly loving one another, generously forgiving, and enthusiastically encouraging. And I pray that your Spirit would use them to bring light where there's darkness and to bring love where there is hate. And I pray, God, that you would use them now just to really make a difference in their world. God bless them. I thank you for them. And I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. You are out of here.